Hi, this is Ray Martinez, and thank you for joining me with Conversations with Ray Martinez. Today I'm going to talk about one of God's package plans. Did you know He had a package plan for us of how we could get to heaven and what we could do, and some suggestions on how to get there? Well, when you think about that, the whole Bible is chock full of that. But today I want to focus on Psalms 34, verses 1 through 8 from the King James Version, and I think it's worth me reading it. It says, I will bless the Lord all the times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear, therefore, and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked unto me, and were lightened, and their faces were not ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him, and saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. Now, if I was going to take some snapshots out of these verses, here's the thing I pick out right away. Bless the Lord. Boast in the Lord. Humble yourself. Be glad. Magnify the Lord. Exalt his name. Seek him out. Look unto him. And then what's the result of that? He says, you're not going to be ashamed. And the Lord will hear you, and he'll save you. And the angel of the Lord will protect you. This builds trust, and he'll deliver you. And that the Lord is good, and you'll be blessed if you trust in him. Now, I just gave you a snapshot. I want to break it down a little bit more because these passages really express the theme of praise, deliverance, and trust in God. So here's a breakdown and some of the key takeaways. First of all, he says praise and worship. The psalmist begins by committing to bless the Lord at all times, emphasizing the importance of continuous praise regardless of the circumstances. And then he says seeking God. The psalmist really encourages others to seek the Lord, indicating that those who earnestly pursue him will find comfort and support. Earnestly, this is important, that you want to do it and that you are really working at it. Here's the third point. There's this deliverance from fear. The passage speaks of God's delivering his people from their fears and troubles, reinforcing the idea that faith in him brings peace. We have fears in our life. I've got them, and we have to live with them, right? But then the minute we start asking God about it and saying, God, please take care of this, there seems to be some peace. There's some comfort if we look to him right away. Here's a fourth point. He says, taste and see. Well, this is the invitation to taste and see. It highlights the experiential nature of faith. It suggests that one can personally experience God's goodness and faithfulness. This taste and see really is relevant because he's talking about use your senses, the senses that I blessed you with. We all have 5 senses, right? He says, use them all. Search me out with your senses. And then the fifth point, blessedness of trust. Now the psalmist concludes with the assurance that those who take refuge in God are blessed, emphasizing the security in him. I think this is a fitting quote from Max Lucado. He's a well-known author and a pastor, and he says this, God never said that the journey would be easy, but he did say that the arrival would be worthwhile. Let's talk about the takeaways. Number 1, continuous praise. Cultivating a habit of praising God in all circumstances can lead to a more positive outlook and a deeper faith. Seek God. Actively seeking God can lead to personal transformation and healing. Fearlessness in faith. Trusting in God can alleviate this fear and anxieties that we get built up within ourselves. In essence, this fearless faith offers comfort during difficult times. And then, here's my fourth point, the experiential faith. Faith is not merely theoretical. It involves personal experiences of God's goodness that can strengthen one's belief. One of the things I like to do when I see myself in trouble or I'm lacking faith, I always talk to God and I say, God, remember the times that you rescued me? And I have this tendency to go over all the times that He's answered my prayers. This really builds up my confidence, and it helps remind me that my strength is in my faith because God gave me that. That's what He wanted. The blessings of refuge is my fifth point. Finding refuge in God is a source of strength and blessings, encouraging believers to rely on Him in times of need, not relying on just our friends that are around us or relying on what the world says, or maybe you're relying on some law that's supposed to back you up on some incident that happened in your life. Sometimes we just need to turn all those circumstances, including the legal matters, turn them over to God because He's the best lawyer you're ever going to have. These verses really inspire a deepened relationship with God through praise, trust, and the pursuit of His presence. These verses were traditionally attributed to King David. The context of its writing is believed to be during a time of significant distress and danger in David's life, specifically when he was fleeing from King Saul. He was after him, no question about it. Historically, David wrote this psalm while he was in a precarious situation, having sought refuge in Gath and a Philistine city. Fearing for his life, he pretended to be insane to escape capture. Can you imagine that? This backdrop of fear and this uncertainty really influenced the themes of the Psalms. He experienced this distress. He was in distress when this happened. During this period, David faced threats from Saul, who was determined to kill him due to jealousy and fear of David's rising popularity. David's experiences include isolation, fear, and the constant danger of being discovered and harmed. Expressions of praise and trust is what David really was trying to write about and really illustrate for all of us. Despite his dire circumstances, David chose to focus on praising God. The Psalms reflected his deep faith and reliance on God for deliverance. It emphasizes the importance of worship and the benefits of seeking God even in difficult times. And then it's this encouragement that David does. In his writing, this Psalms, David not only expresses his personal experiences, but also seeks to encourage others. He invites them to join in praising God and assures them of God's faithfulness and protective nature. Now, why do you suppose David wrote Psalms 34? And by the way, I encourage you to read the whole chapter. We're just taking the first 8 verses. Here's what I think why David did this. It was to proclaim God's goodness. He wanted to share his experience of God's deliverance and goodness, encouraging others to seek and trust in God. By sharing his testimony, David aimed to provide hope to those facing their own struggles, reminding them that God is a source of comfort and strength. Remember what I said about hope. Hope is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And then the Psalms serves as a call to worship and praise, reinforcing the idea that gratitude and worship are vital, especially in challenging times. David is giving instructions. Here's how you do it. Here's how it works. I want to share it with you. So in summary, these first 8 verses emerges from David's personal struggles and serves as a powerful testament to faith, resilience, and the importance of seeking God amidst adversity. When I read these verses from King James, I discover some real truths for me. And they are, we are to bless the Lord at all times, boast in the Lord, be humble to hear and be glad, magnify the Lord, exalt His name together, seek the Lord, and look to Him. I'm going to share with you the results of doing these things I just talked about. Here's what you get to receive from God by doing these truths. My face will be radiant, and I'll never be ashamed. The Lord hears me. He saves me out of all my troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around me because I trust in Him. Consequently, I am delivered. I will seek through all of my senses that the Lord is good, because I take refuge in him, and I am blessed. I'm going to close with this quote from Rick Warren. He was a pastor and an author of a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. If you've never read that book, I encourage you to do it. It'll give you some great insights. Here's what Rick Warren said. God is not just a good idea. He is the source of everything that is good. When we seek him, we find the goodness we are looking for. Really, this quote really encapsulates the essence of Psalms 34, verses 1 through 8, emphasizing the goodness of the Lord and the importance of seeking him for fulfillment and deliverance. You have a blessed day, and dig deeper into the verses so you can understand them and know what God's package plan is like.